Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for ICONversations. We have today 5 of our amazing icons here live on the stage in eXp World. If you are listening to this on YouTube, ask an agent that you know that's at eXp to send you a guest pass so you can come in and experience the live stream version in World. But for now, click that like button. Today we have from Florida, Raymond Gianporcaro. From Washington, Kenji Asakura. Also from Washington, we have Jeff Dickinson. From Texas, we have Seth Prescott. And from Saskatchewan, we have Scott Ziegler. Scott, want to take it away?
Thanks, Brian, and welcome everybody. Looks like we're starting a few minutes late, and I'm going to get you out of here 5 minutes early, so it'll be razzle dazzle today. I'll give all of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. We know where they're from. Just let us know how long you've been in the business, and I'll go down my list here, and I'll start with Seth. Seth, where I guess you're from Texas, and how long have you been in the business?
Correct. I am from just north of San Antonio, Texas. I've been in the business for 24 years, all in commercial.
Commercial. Okay, interesting. Jeff, what about yourself?
40 years. Started when I was 5.
Nice. Kenji, what about you?
This is my, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
This is my 5th year as an agent, and Icon for 2.
Great. And Raymond, out in Florida, your future's so bright, you got to wear shades.
Yeah, you would not believe the way people remember me because of those shades. Ray with eXp in the Space Coast. I've been in business for about 6.5 years.
Great. We got a good mix of some sort of newer agents and then some dinosaurs in the industry, but I mean, hey, full of knowledge. Again, my name's Scott Ziegler. I'm up in Canada. I'm a veteran as well. I had hair when I started in this business 18 years ago. I want to try and gear today's conversation more to the newer agent. And I guess I wanted to start out, I'll ask everybody, I wanted to start out a little bit about in business planning. So the question would be, do you business plan? What do your business plans kind of look like? What are your goals like? And how do you track all that, and measure it against this year and last year? So it's kind of a bigger question around goals and business planning. And I'll start in reverse this time with you, Raymond.
Well, let's see. I'm a solo agent. I did try at a different brokerage to build a team. It really was a lot of work, and it didn't work out for me. So I'm a solo agent, and I have a full-time assistant. Business planning, I basically look for the numbers. I plan to have, $14 million, something like that. I also work off of numbers of transactions. And I find that the two generally jive. We're looking for about 50 to 52 transactions a year. So as far as that is concerned, that is my yearly goal. I find that that's comfortable for me. I can do that by myself. I would not mind having a team, but if I do go the team route again, I'm really looking for some people who are going to be willing to put the work in. So,
yeah, that's fair. And I'm the same way. I'm up in Canada. We don't GCI doesn't or not GCI, but the dollar volume. Hey, I sold 20 million worth of real estate this year. It doesn't compute to me. It makes no sense. You sell one home at 20 million, and I mean that's great. So I'm a transaction guy myself, so I like to hear that you kind of track transactions. What about you, Kenji? What does your sort of business plan look like and goals?
Yeah, thank you. Our business is quite different than probably most. We have a brand called Semi-Retired MD. I'm actually a physician by training. Me and my wife, we started teaching other doctors and high-income earners how to invest in real estate. And so we have a large following. We teach people how to buy investment properties, long-term rentals, short-term rentals. And I got into the business because we're all referrals. So we refer our students to people across the country. And so I don't actually sell homes primarily, just all through referral. In terms of planning, our team have a team of about 18, and we operate on EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System, and so we meet on a quarterly basis and set goals, milestones, it's a pretty rigorous process. And then we track it on a weekly basis to see how we're tracking across all of our milestones. And so what we're aiming for is to do better than 80% on all of our milestones.
Interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting contrast to start it off between a solo agent and a fairly large team. What about you, Jeff? Been in it a long time. How is that? What does that look like now? And maybe give us a snapshot of how that's changed over the years.
Yeah, definitely. 23 of my 40 years, I was building resort communities. So up from Whistler, BC, down to California and over into Arizona. So really been focused on residential since 2005. And for me, business planning is super important. I start in September, October. Everything I do is on Excel. I don't really. We use high level for some initiatives, but the way my clients are generated, which is through just corporate affinity efforts. I can track my buyers and sellers on an Excel spreadsheet. So my business planning is pretty easy. Solo agent, 80 transactions a year is my goal, and about 60 of those are listings, 20 are buyers. So pretty predictive model for me each and every year just to maintain.
Cool. And Seth, admittedly, I don't do commercial. I don't know sort of a lot about the commercial space, but I imagine, sort of business planning and goal setting probably translates across the commercial as well.
It can. I think this is my second iConversation here. I was here last week, I think with you as well, and probably shocked everyone to tell them that I don't really have much of a business plan. I've been doing this for 24 years, and I'm more of a gut instinct kind of a guy. And I would say that my goals and business plan revolve around, serving my clients, however they come. I'd have a lot of repeat business and referral deals. So I honestly don't have time much to plan. I'm just trying to stay ahead as much as I can. And so I think somewhat it's a personality thing. I'm very ADD. And so I can juggle a lot at the same time, just I think partially because of that. And I don't know if that really answers the question, or it's not a very good strategy for everyone. And I certainly could do better at planning, but it seems to work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it myself. A bit of a run and gun, strategy myself. Like for me, my business plan really hasn't changed because nothing really changes in real estate. At the end of the day, I mean, little nuances here and there. And, what I do is I take my top 3 or 4 lead sources and I'm looking at it right now, referrals, past clients, signed and internet leads, for sale by owners. And then I'm looking at my bottom sources, social media, some expired, some center of influence. And, I just look at my buckets, if you will, and think, okay, well, how can I, I did 15 referrals last year. How can I get that to 20? I got 6 signed and internet leads. How can I get that to 10? And so every year I just sort of tweak the plan from last year. And then, our business is interesting. I mean, yeah, I set a goal to do 58 transactions this year. And you know what? A lot of that is outside of our control. We can control the activities that we do, but we can't always control the results. Now, Jeff, you had mentioned something about your business coming in, very much from, corporate affinity and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about lead sources, and I wonder if each of us can sort of tell us what are your top kind of 2 or 3 lead sources, and what does that look like from your end when that lead first comes in? Like, how do you communicate with them? What is sort of your talking point? How do you go from the initial lead to sort of the next step? And maybe I'll start with you, Jeff, on that one.
Sure. No, it sounds good. So, yeah, I think my agent model is totally inverted than most everyone else. So when I started in 2005, I had been living out of my area for 23 years. So my sphere of influence was pretty dried up. So I was just at Starbucks about 1 o'clock, and I said, where are my clients? They're at the workplace. So I just have dedicated myself to finding initiatives to generate clients at the workplace. And what I do is I lead with financial and health wellness, and really chameleonize real estate services. I focus on 50 to 1,000 employee companies in my market, and I'll generate one client for every 100 employees that I represent. So it's a very predictable model. And totally different. They're very kind. They're teed up, ready to go. It's the only way as a single agent that I can do 80 transactions a year, because they're in and out of my ecosystem. Just in a couple of weeks. Typically they've got MLS numbers in hand. Hey, I work for Boeing, or I work for the widget company. You're in doing a lunch and learn, the other day. Hey, I'm ready to buy a house. Let's go out and do it. So, this is why I can track my transactions on an Excel spreadsheet. I'm not incubating them because they're upstream. They're not an internet lead, things like that. So totally different way of going, and something everybody in the audience can do.
No, I mean, it's interesting. You just listening to you talk, I was like, okay, man, I gotta schedule a call with Seth, because I already had some instant ideas. And at the end of the day, though, you break that down to its lowest common denominator. You're coming from a position of value, of service, and of education. So, I mean, that's the best way to generate leads. Jeff, Kenji, sorry, let's move on to Kenji. What about you? What is now again, your business model is a little bit different too, but how do you generate your leads from your doctors? Is it kind of similar to Jeff, where you're in that community? Is it social media? And then when the leads come in, what's the next step for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, for us, I mean, I think our success is largely from really niching down on doctors and then real estate investing. And so I think that really got us our start. And we focus on physician communities. There a lot of physicians still use Facebook for communities, and so that's kind of where we focus. And yeah, then from there, it's because we're so niche down. We're when people are drawn to us and want to learn from us. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. Haven't done as much on social media. We've really relied on referrals, but obviously that's a really big area of focus right now for us, is to really focus on social media. More specifically, I'd say YouTube, and focusing on education as opposed to just trying to sell ourselves. More just kind of trying to add value as much as possible, focusing on the tax benefits of real estate investing, for example, which is a really attractive. It's a way to really attract a high income earner who is trying to reduce their taxes and they want to learn about it.
No, that's awesome. For those in the audience listening right now, I mean, to me, the main takeaway point of the last two speakers is coming from a position of service, of value, and of education. We're going to talk about social media maybe a little bit next once we get through this part about leads. But driving your business from a value proposition will take you so much further than braggatory, look at me posts. look at me marketing. I sold another one. Coming from a place of service and value will take you so much further. Raymond, same question to you about leads. What would you say is your kind of top lead sources? And then what would that look like once they kind of hit your inbox or your text? And where do you go from there?
I started out without any sphere because I'm not from here originally. And so my first year in business, I went after the low-hanging fruit, which was just for sale by owners. And they're easy to find. I find that all you really need is Zillow, a pen, and a phone, and you can contact these people. The trick is having the right conversations with them and getting them to say something like, "Oh, gee, this is the longest I've ever talked to a real estate agent." So I did that for about a year and a half, and then just because I had done enough transactions in the area, I started getting transactions organically. I ran with that until I started working with a team, and then I found that I needed more leads for that team. So I began using a company called ZBuyer for leads, and it was primarily listing leads because that's what I'm most interested in. That works, but they're very long-term leads. I'm working on leads that today that I received a year and a half ago. It's probably not the most efficient place to be, and I'm actually looking for other ways to get more involved with the community right now, and hold some of these lunch and learns and so forth. We've identified a couple of different venues that we can get either cheap or free. And I've got business partners for sponsors lined up, and just working on the advertising to local aerospace companies at this point.
No, that's awesome. And Seth, now you, again, kind of admittedly been in a long time. Sounds like a lot of your business comes, organically, but anything special on the lead front? And then, when you do, I mean, even if it is a referral, what does that look like on your end when that hits your inbox or your phone? Kind of how do you walk us through how you might take that initial meeting to, getting paperwork signed?
Sure. So, I mean, one thing is commercial transactions are generally much longer than residential. I mean, I've worked on deals for 4 years. So my goal is to keep my pipeline full. And I joke that I'm a Chinese plate spinner. I just kind of keep all the plates spinning, make sure the ball, is out of my court, so to speak. And I'm turning things as quickly as possible. And it takes a lot of juggling of different deals. I've had upwards of 50 deals going on at the same time, and so with 6 kids and all the other things I'm doing, I don't even know how I do it, but somehow it works out. As far as getting leads and referrals from other people, again, that's where you respond as quickly as possible, and you make sure that you take care of the people that are sending you referrals.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, for myself personally, on the buyer side, once that lead kind of comes in, I try very hard to get them on the phone as quick as I can, kind of pre-qualify what they're looking for and whatever. And I'm a little bit run and gun with my buyers. I don't necessarily think you need to sit them down to a presentation. I know things are changing, and I can't even speak to that because I'm in Canada. But I find out what they're looking for. I send them a list of houses, and I want to get out with them as quick as I can. I build rapport on the fly. 1 house, 2 house, 3 houses, and I'll show them 2, 3, 4 houses, right off the hop. And then at that last house, I'll take a few extra minutes with them before we leave, see how the day went, see what their questions are, if I got to get them pre-approved at that point or set them up with a different lender. So I try and build rapport on the fly. And then on the listing side of things, I'm always, I usually try and start it off with a preview. Like, hey, let me come over. I'm just going to have a quick look at the house. And again, build rapport when I'm in that that living room. And I was gonna come back to this one, but I wanna move to it now. Sort of on the follow up. Raymond talked about it. And Seth just mentioned it too about, some of these deals are, 3, 6, 8, 4 years in the making. I'll go in reverse this time, Seth. What does your follow up process look like? What do you like? If somebody says, "Hey, check back with me in the spring, in the fall," whatever the case may be, what do you do with that information? How do you remind yourself to follow up with them? And then what does that sort of sequence look like?
So I try to use Outlook, just make myself a little calendar reminder to call somebody if it's going to be, in a while. And I'll try to, follow up with people as I think about them, even if it's not, when they said just, hey, you came to mind, shoot them a quick text, and just say, came to mind, wanted to see how things were going. Can I help you with anything? But there have been times when I've had too many things going on and I forget to call somebody back, and I've definitely lost deals that way. And happened recently with a prospect that I had a listing presentation with, and then had some personal issues with my son, had gotten sick, and I honestly just forgot, with everything going on, to follow up with them, and I lost that deal. So it is important to have a system in place. And, admittedly, I don't sometimes when I get too busy. And so I think, having, like I said, I'm guilty of this myself, and need to be better at making sure that I follow up with people.
Yeah, fair enough. Jeff, what about you? I mean, you're making these lunch and learns. You're probably getting people that come up to you and say, "Hey, that sounds good. We're 6 months out. We're getting our down payment together. We're getting stuff sorted out." How do you kind of manage your follow up process?
Yeah, so again, going back to my Excel spreadsheet, I've got buyers in one column, I've got sellers in another, I've got their address, their telephone number, email, contact information, and then I'll just put some notes. And it's just important for me to literally review that Excel spreadsheet every day, and it only takes a minute, and then it just gives me my task list for today. Hey, I've got to reach out to Johnny Jones, from 3 months ago, or things like that. So it's been really easy for me, versus getting into KV Core or a high level database or something. I own an AI company, but I'm not very techy. So just in my personal practice. So kind of caveman style.
Whatever works.
It works.
Kenji, obviously you talked about how you get your leads and the type of client that you have, but sort of same question to Jeff with your network and whatever. You must have doctors that say, "Hey, this is great. This is something I want to get into, but I'm not quite there yet." What's your follow-up sequence like?
Yeah, we follow up mostly through email. Email still works. We have a email database that we maintain, and then we follow up regularly when we have course launches. And so usually they'll get some type of an email sequence, and that's generally how we keep in touch. We also have communities is the other thing that we do, and so we have, as we mentioned, a lot of doctors like Facebook, and so Facebook communities where we'll just add value. People ask questions, and then we'll answer them. And then we also have some private paid communities as well, where we can keep close tabs on them, and then also sell them higher ticket mastermind products, which are higher ticket than our course products. So that's pretty much how we kind of maintain or contact with our leads at very different levels. Some who are haven't taken a course versus others who are further along, have taken a course, and they might be interested in our mastermind product.
Cool. And Raymond, what about you? How are you managing your leads, following up with them? Where do you store them, all that kind of stuff?
Well, the primary storage is my CRM. I've been using it since I started in real estate. It's a really good one. and but I don't use that for reminders. It will create reminders for me, and then they just pile up. Before I know it, I've got 2,500 of them, and I just end up going in and deleting them all. So I've added a second program in, which helps a huge amount. It's called Todoist, Todoist. I actually put that into the chat. It's an external. So when it's time to talk to someone, I record my conversation. I type in our conversation into my CRM, so I know, next time what we talked about the last time, whether we connected at all that stuff. And but Todoist gives me a list of things to do every day. So when I'm done talking to someone, I'll create a new to-do in there for it could be 2 days from now, it could be 2 months from now, it depends on the situation. But 2 months from now, it's going to pop up and it's going to say, hey, call John Doe. I look in my CRM for John Doe and it says wants to buy a $1.2 million house in Satellite Beach. Okay, so and I have all of my previous conversations in the CRM. That works really well. I have a lot of people in my database and I'm a little overwhelmed. I really am looking for someone else to help me with that at this point, because I have so many conversations going right now. And you can't just ignore them because you never know who's going to buy the next house. So the Todoist has helped a great deal. I use it and so does my assistant. And it's actually free for a single agent, which was pretty interesting. I pay for it because I have more than one person using it, but it isn't very expensive, and you can actually categorize things. Inside of the Todoist, I have different categories like current active buyers, current active listing, current active listings, because I like to keep in touch with the listings. I carry somewhere between 3 and 12 listings at a time, so it's pretty important that I'm communicating with them every week. And then I have people who are listing prospects in there, and every day of the week I had a different category. So that's what keeps me busy, actually.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I'm kind of a hybrid of what you do. I'm kind of old school where I still have a little black book on my desk and I write. You use your CRM. I mean, I have I just use my Gmail. So I mean, from a past client perspective, when I'm communicate to them once a month, I just blind CC an email out to them. Maybe not the best way to do it, but that seems to work for me. And then on like stuff that's active, I have a little black book. I write my stuff down in this book, and kind of like you, once a week or once a quarter, I'll stroke stuff off as it completes, and I'll look back 2 or 3 pages and be like, oh shoot, I kind of lost touch with this guy. Let me follow up with him. But yeah, I'm going to look into that to do it. It sounds interesting. What I use right now, I have an iPhone. I'm sure that Android has something similar, but we have the reminders app, and I just in a hack that I just came across recently that works really well is kind of using Siri. I mean, I'll just be like, hey Siri, remind me tomorrow at 1:00 to follow up with Raymond about ICONversations. Boom, it's set. It's out of my mind. And then at 1:00 tomorrow morning, my phone beeps and says, Raymond, ICONversations. I'm like, oh, that's right. I gotta call him. And you said something else that's interesting too, is that for anybody listening, the key to follow up and reminders and all that kind of stuff is when your phone says call Mr. Seller this day, this time, and it comes up, don't second guess it, call them. Because what I often did was like, it's 1:00. I'll call them at 5:00. They don't want me to call them at supper time. I'll call them tomorrow morning. It's too early in the morning. I'll call them on Saturday. And then next thing you know, their house pops up on the market with another agent. I could be wrong, but I'm not getting the sense that social media plays a huge role into any of your guys' business. Let's just keep going, back and forth like we've been. I'll again start with you, Raymond. What does social media look like for you? How do you use it, and do you get business out of it?
Well, let's see. I mean, I use the normal social medias out there. My full-time assistant is really the one who's doing all the posting. we make sure we say happy birthday to everybody who pops up every day. And everybody thinks it's me. But if I were to do that, it would take a couple of hours a day that I just don't have. But we do advertise all of our open houses on there, so we probably get business from that. However, I can tell you that direct social media hasn't really proven to be a direct way to get business. I think it keeps us popular. I think that it helps. I think it creates brand awareness, but I really don't get people calling me up on social media who want to buy a house or sell a house. So.
Okay, so you kind of use it more old school, like it was kind of always intended to be. Kenji, you, I guess you guys, it sounds like you do use a bit more so like by creating Facebook groups and stuff like that. Is that the primary use of your social media strategy?
I would say that our social media strategy has not been as effective because we haven't been focused on adding value. And so when, the strategy this year is to create high value content. And one of the things that we realized is how we develop that know, like, and trust, which I think all of us could benefit from, right? And anytime we're trying to get a client is when somebody takes some time to listen to you. And we have a podcast, and that's actually where we get a lot of that know, like, and trust happening, and then people buying from us. And so I think what we learned from that is that video combines that visual, but also the audio, and we have to just put a lot more effort into it. It's not just like getting in front of the camera and just kind of winging it. A lot of the top creators, they invest a lot of time scripting everything out and then doing research. And so, a real high value piece of content that might be 30 minutes might be, I don't know, 20, 30 hours of production. So that's the type of thing that, I'm not necessarily focused on that right now, but I mean, I'm starting to focus on that more, where we're going to be creating more high value content and putting some effort into that production of it.
Yeah, no, like, and trust is essentially the whole point of social media. What about you, Jeff? What does that look like on your end?
Yeah, I've got a pretty minimal social footprint. I think if I were 10 years younger, I would embrace it a little bit more. I've seen no relationship of actual client generation from that. Certainly there's awareness. I mean, I'm using Google ads will say to generate mortgage based leads, but I just have no lead gen or nothing's really coming from social media for me that I can see making an appreciable difference.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I when I do these ICONversations, I always try and think, okay, what can we say to new agents that are going to help them along? And it's always a challenge when you say, oh, I've been doing it so long that it's 100% referral based that I don't have to do anything. And it's like, well, and I know that's not what you're saying, but it's so hard to translate that to a new agent. But there are advantages of being around long enough where you don't have to be grinding social media posts all the time to get business, because I think as an industry, we've kind of got to a place where we think that we just have to make a couple of posts and we're going to be rich. And I think what we're learning today from everybody is that it really is in the relationships. It's in the belly to belly that we're making, our livelihoods. And Seth, I'm kind of guessing I already know what the answer is, but what does your social media look like?
Well, I'm also running for a political. I'm running for city council in my little town, and I got a comment from this guy that I reached out to. He was like, "Hey, you may want to put a bio on your Facebook." I've had a Facebook page forever. I never even had a bio. So if that tells you anything, I don't use it very much for that. I have huge numbers of connections on both Facebook and LinkedIn, but I don't use them a lot for business, other than for, I think, reputation and credibility standpoint. So that's really, to me, what it's what I use it for. And it's a public place for people to go and check me out, basically.
Yeah,
And so I don't use it to market per se. I definitely have thought about trying to start posting my closed deals on LinkedIn, especially when they're good deals. But I haven't taken advantage of that as much as I should have. But it's definitely something that I would like to do.
Yeah, that's fair. And I have I kind of think like websites, for example, are starting to become a thing of the past. I mean, you have to have one just so that you can say that you have one. But I use my website as more of a digital business card, like you just said. If somebody wants to check me out, they can go there. They can find out all information they need about me, but they're not really going to get a play-by-play on my website. But for me on social media, I kind of agree. With Kenji about know, like, and trust. I do quite a bit of social media marketing. I had an extremely good year last year, and cracked like the top 20 in Canada for solo agents. If you go to my social media, you might see two just sold. Like I just don't believe in that just listed, just sold stuff. But all of my posts are a value based post, an educational based post. Here's the 3 things you need to know about this, and that kind of stuff. And last year I did 4 deals that I directly relate to social media. Like, hey, I know that deal came from social media, but I bet you that of the referrals and the past clients and some of these other ones, that social media played a really big part of staying top of mind, staying top of preference. And if I could give members of the audience, in my opinion, a really underrated or undervalued social media hack right now, and that would be direct messages. I can't remember who said it when we were talking about follow up, and I think it might have been Jeff, but just saying like, hey, as people come to mind, I reach out to them, and the direct messages or the DMs on social media, whether it be Facebook Messenger or Instagram or whatever, and just if somebody posts something that they just got back from holidays, fire them a DM and be like, hey, it looked like you had a great time on holidays. I've always wanted to go to that country or that place, and just having these little small micro interactions may go a long way. I mean, especially if you're posting like consistently or semi-consistently, then you're engaging on social media, and it doesn't have to be about real estate. You're just engaging in human interaction. That's a really good way to sort of level up your social media strategy without actually having to, post and ask for business. So what do I want to talk about next? As we kind of get to the last 8 minutes here, I wanted to talk a little bit about mentorship and coaching. I mean, obviously, a couple of us are a little bit newer. Some of us have been in it for a long time. I'll maybe start with you, Kenji, on this one. Do you have a coach? Do you have mentorship? Do you think people should? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I could tell you that when we started investing in real estate, we didn't have mentorship, and we would have benefited a lot from it. And but since then, yeah, we've my wife and I are both big into the Tony Robbins world, and so we get a lot of coaching. We get a coach from that, but we also branched out into other areas as well and other people. And so, yeah, there's no question. We believe in mentorship and coaching. That's what we do. We promote that because we say, hey, if you want to shortcut your time to success, right? You can, find somebody who is doing what you want to achieve, and and just follow in their footsteps. So yeah, for sure, coaching and mentorship is a huge part of our lives.
Awesome. What about you, Raymond? What does that look like in your business, if at all?
I did have a coach for several years. I may be untrainable, and I don't have one at the moment. It probably wouldn't hurt because EXP does tend to be a little bit more solitary for a single agent. I used to have an office with other agents around, and that was a big deal. I may go back into paid coaching program at some point. At the moment, my accountability is kind of like a mentorship. I have an agent who is not doing as well as she used to be. And I reached out to her and asked her why, because she's been so great for so long. And so we had a long conversation, and I started coaching her. We are on the mend with her. She's got a couple of listings again. And now I'm using her as an accountability partner so that, we can put our short-term goals together and then keep ourselves accountable to them. So, but that's the extent of coaching right now.
It's interesting when you kind of quote unquote become the coach. All of a sudden, you have to be like, well, if I'm going to tell so and so to door knock, I guess I better get out there and door knock as well. So there is an accountability piece about being, sort of the mentee or the mentor or the coach. Jeff, been in it a long time. I'm sure you've ebbed and flowed through coaching and mentorship. What does that look like for you now? And what would you say to a newer agent in the business in regards to coaching and mentorship?
Yeah, if I were a new agent, I'd definitely go to a coach, as Kenji, I think mentioned, to short track success. I'd definitely do that. I don't have a coach, but one of my agents on my first level is a kind of a multi-coach as far as just some of the old time real estate coaches out there, the buy referral onlys, things like that. So I'm able to cull a lot of that. He keeps me accountable. I'm kind of hard to teach as well. But yeah, if I were again 10 years younger or something or other, as I'm kind of on the backside of my career, I would definitely go and get a coach to short track and to really focus on personal development and probably primarily client generation, because I truly believe that's the business we're in. So aside from the know, like, and trust side.
Yeah, that makes sense. Seth, Mr. Organized, what about you?
Well, contrary to what I may come across, I'm really organized for my clients, but not necessarily for myself. So I think it's absolutely imperative, especially on the commercial side, to have a coach, mentor, partner when you're a new agent. It takes probably 5 years of being in the business on the commercial side to really get it. I mean, at least it did for me. And it took another 5 years on top of that to kind of get to kind of the next level. And then for the last, 10 years or so, I have, I've been at the level where I don't really need, a coach. And still there's always things that come across that you just don't know. And that's where it's important to build your network and people that you can trust, that are, people like Jeff that have been in the business since he was 40 plus years as a 45-year-old.
Thank you.
But it is really, really important to have someone, because I was talking to, and what I'm doing now is I'm actually being a mentor and a coach to agents that I bring on. I'm signed up also with the mentor program. And it is really important that you bring, your knowledge and be able to share it with other people. It gives me a lot of joy to do that. And as a new agent, it's a must, because the experiential side of the commercial business is very different, I think, than the residential business, where it's more cookie cutter. And again, I'm not saying the residential is easier. It's just different. And every deal that I do on the commercial side has aspects of another deal, but they're literally all different. The forms are different. There's no fill in the blanks. So you really have to understand the concepts, and that takes a lot of just, on the job training. You can learn as much as you want in books, but until you actually start doing it, it's going to be a long process. And that's honestly why, our model is great, but it is a little challenging, for newer agents, just being on their own, because most firms have an office, and that's where you hear other people talking, you get invited into meetings, and so being on your own is in this side of the business is very difficult. So you definitely have to find someone to be a coach, mentor, or partner with.
Yeah, I love all those answers, and I'll give my my 2 cents on that as well, and then I'll wrap this up and turn it back over to Brian. I agree with everything that was said, and Seth, I like the way you put it, and I've been 18 years in the business, and I know the first 5 years, yeah, it was a lot of learning, lots of figuring out my language and my procedures and all that kind of stuff, and then there was another 5 years of just trial and error, and then the last 8 or so have been really good, and they continue to get better. And one thing that I think is underrated when you start in the business is joining a team. And I know that, and I mean more in the traditional sense, not necessarily the the EXP downline and all that kind of stuff. Now maybe it could be set up that way, but finding an actual team, somebody that's running a few agents. Yeah, you might have to give up a bit of a split, but hopefully you're getting either some lead sources or something out of that. And even if you said, okay, for the next 3 years, I'm going to be on a team. I'm going to work with this team. I'm going to lean on my my team lead. How do I write this contract? I lost this listing. What did I do wrong? What could I do better? And I was on the team for, I don't know, 5 years, maybe 6 years. Absolutely invaluable. I mean, I learned 15 years worth of stuff being on that team. And, I think that agents are maybe reluctant to because of splits and stuff like that. And, if you struggle your first year and do 6 deals, and you get 100% of that commission. What if you could do 15, but give up 25%? I mean, you'd be so much further ahead financially, business savvy, contacts, connections for the next year. So I think that joining a team might be underrated. Seth in Texas, Jeff in Washington, Kenji also in Washington. I'm not sure if they're the same Washingtons though. And Mr. Raymond out in Florida. I thank you guys for your time and your insight today. I know I learned some stuff myself, and I hope the audience did as well. Brian, appreciate it.
I want to thank you all for joining today. This was an amazing panel. If you are watching this on YouTube, smash that like button. We are here every Friday at 8:45 a.m. Pacific Time, 11:45 Eastern. See you next week. Bye-bye. Also, if you are an icon out there in the audience today, I have a special little survey for you to fill out to get a couple of cultural points. Going to put that in the chat for you right now.